sweeping changes in real estate right now. Brokerages buying brokerages, small and medium-sized brokerages buying bigger ones. Why is this happening, and what does it mean for buyers, sellers, and agents, more importantly, and also for brokers? Hey guys, Mike Ferrante here, doing Tuesday training. This one is for everybody, not just buyers and sellers, but also for brokers and agents. And we're going to talk about this weird phenomenon that's happening right now. It's called consolidation, and it happens during a market downturn. And what you have in any downturn is change. Smaller companies or companies that are less profitable getting gobbled up by the ones that are doing better. And we're going to talk about why this is happening and also what it means for buyers, sellers, and agents. Now, real quick here, if you want to get a hold of me, it's mike@21mike.com. Email is always best. And if you want to schedule an appointment, just go to 21mike.com, click that button at the top, schedule an appointment with me or someone on the team. Of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, smash the subscribe button, and you can follow us on Facebook, 21 Mike Team, where we simulcast this whole thing. And by the way, the audio goes on our podcast, Free Beer and Real Estate. Boy, that was a lot of information. Well, let's get into the content for today. It's consolidation. And what's happening is there's pressure in the industry. Transaction count is down. There's pressure on commissions. Okay, we had the big NAR lawsuit. There's all these changes happening in the business. We have agents leaving the business. Not as many as I thought, but there's definitely a drop in agent count, a drop in the number of transactions, a rise in the cost, and just sheer breadth of tech and operating costs. Okay, and this is causing these mid to large size brokerages to be forced into becoming sellers. So you have Anywhere. Okay, the Anywhere brands included Century 21, Coldwell Banker, ERA, Better Homes and Gardens. They got bought by Compass. Okay, Compass is kind of the new kid on the block, reputed to be a tech giant, a mover and shaker in the industry, making changes, trying to push for exclusive office listings, that whole thing that we did another video about a week or two ago. So you have Compass gobbling up the biggest brand in the world in Anywhere. And then just recently we heard Real Brokerage about, buying Remax. Again, this established brand, the brand that has the highest PPP, which those of you who aren't in the industry, it's per agent production and per person production. And so the Remax agents that are out there, you guys know that you are the highest producers on a per agent basis. So what the heck is happening is that we have these companies that are becoming less and less profitable. Both Anywhere and Remax had massive amounts of debt, and the profitability of these companies was dropping. Well, what happens in any industry, not just real estate? You have consolidation. The companies that are doing better are buying up these forced sellers. And it's a great time to buy because they're not doing so well. They don't have a good negotiating power right now. And one of the questions I had about it is these things, these deals happened where essentially debt was assumed. So you have Compass assuming the debt of Anywhere. You have Real assuming the debt of Remax. And I am curious. I don't have the answer on this one, but I'm curious what happens to those companies long term as they try to build that leverage to get out of that debt. Okay, it'll be interesting to see. Now, what I was really curious about, and I've been reading a lot and listening to a lot of opinions on why. So let's talk about the why first. You guys know, if you're a broker or team leader, how hard it is to recruit agents. I have 1, 2, 3 appointments every week with agents saying, "Hey, Mike, I'm interested in your team, or I'm interested in coming over to your brokerage." But that is tiny little baby steps. So what I think the biggest reason is for these acquisitions is these companies are acquiring agents. They're essentially buying agents. They're buying market share. So for many years, one of our local competitors called Howard Hanna, that's how they grew. Okay, so they started out in Pittsburgh and they started growing geographically by buying offices. At one point, a couple decades ago, they bought Smythe Kramer, they bought Realty One. These were big brands in our area. They were actually a smaller company gobbling up a bigger one during a downturn, and they assumed all the debt of these companies, and they've been fine. Okay, now I have a theory on why that worked for them and what these other companies are thinking, and I'll get to that in just a second. But essentially, what those companies are doing is they're buying agents. Okay, so Compass was, I think, the eighth largest brokerage in the US. And by buying anywhere, suddenly they become the largest. So worldwide, their agent count is now number one. Real, who a lot of people have never heard of, suddenly bought Remax and now they're in the headlines and they just added to their agent count, not just nationally, but globally. So what does this do for them? It gives them economies of scale. It gives them more offices, more agents, and it gives them more negotiating power. So when they're making deals with Zillow, for example, it gives them more negotiating power to make the sweetheart deals. Now, as agents, we want the sweetheart deals with brands like Zillow, Homes.com, Realtor.com. So I think what Real's doing and what Compass is doing. And I'm curious if anyone's going to end up buying Keller Williams. I don't think so. I think that the egos at play over there won't allow it to happen. But that's the biggest rumor. I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but every other day I wake up to something on the in Facebook, which is not a great place to get your news. But oh, rumors are Keller Williams is on the sale block. It'll be interesting to see if that happens. I don't think so. But I think what's happening long term here is that these companies are gobbling up the other companies to add agent count, to add economies of scale, and they're hoping that over time they can pay off that debt that they are assuming. Now, the one thing I haven't heard anybody talking about is apart from controlling the transactions, from buying agents and just controlling the overall just scale of real estate, it is the ancillary services. So you have companies like EXP has their own lender now, title company. Our local competitor that I mentioned, Howard Hanna, for years they've had loans, they've had title work, they have insurance people. And by, we all know everybody wants to be our friends. Everyone wants to be the agent's friend because what do? People ask us, hey, who should I use for insurance? Who should I use to cut my grass? Who should I use for a new roof? They know that the agents have a lot of sway over where the home buyer and seller spends their money, who they sign up with. So by purchasing the agents, in effect, they're controlling the ancillary services. And I think long term, as we see commissions shrinking potentially, they're going to make their money, they being the brokerages, they're going to make their money on ancillary services, mortgage, title, insurance, and they're already doing it. So I think the ancillary services is a big thing. I think just the whole breadth of having more agents, they're banking on that, making them profitable. So I read something like Remax was at a 7 times on their debt ratio. And by combining with Real, they brought that debt ratio down to a 4. Now, those of you in finance probably understand that better than I do. But the bottom line is that while companies are bleeding money, what are they not doing? They're not investing in tech. They're not investing in better people, training, the AI type stuff. So I saw this firsthand. When I made a move, immediately I saw an improvement in the tech that I was experiencing. Just my website alone, it's night and day. So when companies are not profitable, they're not going to reinvest in the company as much. All right. So I've thrown a lot of information out at you. What I'd like to do is kind of break this down for buyers, sellers, and agents. And I'll lump brokers into the agent category. For buyers, first thing is you see the consolidation happening, fewer players in the game. What I would worry about is the exclusive office listings. So you get a big company, say Compass, because they're the ones who are really pushing for the exclusive office. I start to worry about where can I see properties to buy? Do I have to go to a particular website? Now, I think all of this is going to be cured by AI and by potentially a national MLS, but I think that's years down the road. I don't think the national MLS happens for a long time. But as a buyer, I start to worry about, well, if I work with this agent who's at this brand, what does that mean for me being able to find all of the listings? What if they're held out of the MLS? And what if they're not advertised on the big third-party websites? So I think for buyers, you have to think about that. For sellers, I want the maximum sale price if I'm a seller, right? I want the most competition. I want more offers. I want multiple offers, and I want it over list price if I can. How do you achieve that as a seller? By creating more visibility for your property online. And this is where I start to question the value of exclusive office listings. So if I'm a seller, it's important, listen up, to start asking better questions. If I list my property with you, Mr. or Mrs. Agent, where is my listing shown? Is it shown on competitor websites? Is it going in the MLS? If not, for how long? Is it going on third-party websites and which ones? If it goes on third-party websites, is it a basic listing or is it an enhanced listing? This goes back to the deals I was talking about. You have companies making sweetheart deals with the Zillows of the world to say, oh, our listings will all be enhanced or featured or whatever they call it on that website. So I think it's important to start asking those questions as a seller. And lastly, I'm going to talk about agents and brokers. So here's my question for brokers in particular. And since Remax was the most recent one, I'm sitting here thinking about, okay, I'm a broker with Remax and I've got 50 agents. That's a pretty nice size brokerage. It's probably moderate sized. What happens when those contracts start expiring? Do they stay with Remax? Do they say, ooh, this real is a really interesting thing with the downline and the stocks and the profit sharing and all this kind of stuff, revenue sharing, excuse me. So what happens to those agents? What happens to those brokers in the long run as they start having this option of switching over to this different model? Now, if you don't know about the models, I'll go over this real high level. And I think this is partially to blame, if you will, for the decline of some of the old school franchise type models. And I'm not ripping on any brand. I'm not here to do that because, I believe in all these brands, but here's the difference. And Scott, I know you're not going to love hearing this, but I'm going to say it anyway. As the EXPs, Kellers, LPTs, and real brokerages have taken off, agents start to realize that they can keep more of their money. They can earn stock. They can build their own downline without creating a team. They can increase their revenue, almost like an employee-owned company. I was just talking to a guy today. He was talking about a dumpster company. And he said it was the hardest thing in the world because you couldn't get people to show up for work and you couldn't get them to be invested in the company until they decided to give their employees some kind of ownership in the company. They made it an employee-owned company. And then they started showing up. They started driving. When they were asked to do overtime, they were happy to do it because they felt like it was their company. So what I'm seeing is a shift in the industry, not only in technology, but in how agents see the value proposition of the brokers. So if you are an old school broker, you better be giving some kind of value because as agents start learning about the different models that are out there, I think the business is evolving in a certain direction. I think brick and mortar is becoming less and less. I mean, we're seeing it with EXP, Real, LPT, no offices. Now, I think there's bad side effects to that. And Scott, I don't know if you're seeing it in Texas. We're definitely seeing it in Ohio, lack of oversight. So again, if you're thinking about this, that's great from an agent point of view. You think about all these things and you think, wow, this is great. I'm now kind of an owner. I get stock, I get downline revenue. Here's the problem with that from a consumer standpoint. And we see it every day. These agents are out there on an island with no supervision and a complete lack of training. I see Scott nodding. I see it daily. These agents don't know how to fill out a purchase agreement. They don't understand negotiation. I'm negotiating deals with agents that are newer in the business that went to these companies that don't have the infrastructure to really make them great agents. And again, I'm not trying to bash agents here, but there's something missing from that model. So as a buyer or seller, you need to interview your agent, understand their skill level. For you, it shouldn't matter what company they're with. It's about the agent and do they have the tools, the technology, and the knowledge and experience to support you. And from an agent standpoint, we're being pulled in different directions. I already know that it's going to happen. We're going to have these brands saying, hey, we have this great deal with Zillow. You should come to us. You really have to ask the right questions about that because what does it mean for you and your business? How does it help you help clients? Okay, I know I was all over the place there. Just a quick summary here. I'm gonna give you the recap. Consolidation during a time of a down market, fewer transactions. You're going to see more of this. Small and mid-sized companies gobbling up the other ones. And in this case, the largest brand on the planet anywhere. And you have Real just bought Remax. I wonder who the next one to go is. Will it be Keller? What does this mean for buyers, sellers, and agents? Each one's a little different. Buyers really need to ask the right questions. How am I going to see inventory? How am I going to find houses? Sellers, how is my property going to be exposed to the market? Is it going to be just in your little pocket? Or is it going to be everywhere, which benefits me as the seller? And for agents and brokers, what is your value proposition going forward? Does the brand you're with affect that? No one best brand, no one best platform. Everybody's different. Every agent is different. Heck, every city is different. I was just driving around small town Ohio and I saw two different, very small local brokerages that dominated the area. I only saw their signs in their towns. And then as soon as I got a couple miles out, didn't see those signs anymore. So I wonder what that means for those little brokerages. And as the consumers become more and more savvy and they start asking questions and they say things like, well, hey, how are you using AI to help me sell my home and get more money for it? Can you answer that question? I know this was really heavy today, guys, and I want to open it up for questions and comments real quick since we're wrapping up a couple minutes early. Um, I know I'm going to stir the pot a little bit with this today, but anyone have anything to add?
Well, obviously, I agree with everything you just said. You know, um, I'm seeing it. I see a huge difference with LPT, and um, uh, I'm happy with for the move that we made. I mean, our marketing alone is spectacular. So the world's changing, not just real estate; it's everything. And you're right, brick and mortar is a thing of the past. Who shops who shops at Macy's and Lazarus and J.C. Penney anymore? It's all Amazon.
Yeah.
So I
One
mean
of the
it's
articles I was reading talked about exactly that. How do you recruit agents at the speed at which you can buy them by acquiring a brokerage? One of the analogies I saw, it's almost like if Amazon went out and bought another company and suddenly they added uh, 50,000 new drivers, new distribution centers. They just acquired it like that. So, if you're a broker, team lead, whatever, or an agent trying to build a downline, how are you doing it? Are you doing it one agent at a time? Or is this the time, someone like Scott down in San Antonio, is this the time that maybe you're out there looking around? Hey, how about that mom and pop? Maybe it's time to say, hey, I want to make you an offer and you gobble them up because that's what's happening in the industry. It's called consolidation and it happens during downturns. Anyone else? All right. This was heavy stuff today, guys. Next week, I promise to lighten it up, maybe talk about some more scripts and dialogues and business generating activities. But I'm seeing this all over the news. I saw one of the second level coaches on Facebook comparing the acquisition of brokers to acquiring nuclear arms. I mean, I thought that was a little bit out there. He was saying, look, by buying these brokers, it's like saying, now I have nukes, and I can influence the world. Kinda. I mean, I don't totally disagree with that. I think it was a little bit of an excessive example, but they're gobbling up brokerages to create scale, to build the ancillary services, and to hopefully shrink that debt ratio down to the point where it becomes profitable. Final thought, Scott? I saw you unmuted.
Well, no, it's just that I'm really pretty much just agreeing with you that maybe there. I have read, uh, despite all the brick and mortar is out of fashion and all that. I have read on Inman that there is kind of a trickle back to actual offices. I'm in the market pretty strongly. I know what's out there. We're competing with these different business models all the time, and you are right. The Many of them are very, very part time or almost no time and have very little training. We have to do the transactions for them pretty much. Uh, and it's unfortunate for the profession. I think it demeans it some. Uh, and but On the other hand, the all the profit sharing and all that kind of thing. Yeah, we can't compete with that. We have to compete with demonstrating to agents that we have leads that we can provide them, and just coming at it from a different way.
Yeah. Training, culture, these are all things that agents say that they want. It's interesting because when you interview agents, and I've seen the numbers, I've seen the surveys on this, most agents don't make a change because of money. That's what everybody thinks, but it's usually money's not number one. It's culture, it's training, it's mentorship. But at the end of the day, money is still a factor. But the problem is, Scott, and we're all seeing it, is that we're doing the same thing you are. We have to guide the co-broke through the transaction because they haven't had the proper training. So as consumers, this is where it gets tricky for consumers, Scott. I think buyers and sellers, the reason they need to understand what's going on is because so many buyers and sellers end up with the first agent they meet. Mike, we've seen it at the Tom Ferry conventions. It's something like 72% of people work with the first agent they meet. They don't understand what questions to ask. They don't really interview the agent. Oh, well, you're here doing an open house. You must be a good agent. Therefore, I will work with you. And it's unfortunate because they don't know the right questions to ask. What I would say is at least interview two agents when you're out there, buyers and sellers, and use ChatGPT or some other AI tool. Make me a list of 10 or 20 questions I should ask a buyer's agent. I should ask a listing agent to help me find a good one because it's like I said, it's not really about the brokerage, it's about the agent. But what I think is going to happen is the brokerages that are not profitable, they'll continue to pull back money on things like tech, on systems, on really great people. The training that you get from your brokerage is so critical. And absent those things, the quality of the agent is going to drop. And I think agents will continue leaving. Not only profitability, but we've watched agent count drop at certain companies, and there's a reason for that. So buyers, sellers, make your list. Use ChatGPT, make your list of 10 or 20 questions to ask agents and do it. Don't just work with the first agent you talk to. All right, everybody, I've got to wrap it up here. Thanks for being here. I promise next week will be a little lighter. Take care.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, Mike.